Hi.
All right, happy Thursday, everybody! Really excited to introduce to everyone Erin Blaskie. First of all, thanks so much for taking the time of your schedule and joining us for Training Thursday.
Yeah, no worries. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So, how are things with you lately? How's your week going? How are things going?
Yeah, so it's been a little bit crazy. For anyone that doesn't know, I basically quit my full-time job at the beginning of this year and jumped into the unknown in a lot of ways. I didn't know what was sort of going to be next, and sort of fell into creating a company again. So yeah, it's been a wild few weeks, and I have 5 clients now, and I'm sort of building this plane as it's flying through the sky, and trying to not only get all of my clients onboarded and set up and getting things humming along for them, but also incorporating, setting up bank accounts, all of it. So it's definitely been a little crazy. Um, I'm pretty tired most days, but it's the best kind of tired. So it's
Absolutely.
good.
Well, congrats on that. That's amazing. I mean, I know when I
Thanks.
first came in the industry, you had a great reputation and definitely heard good things from a lot of people. So I'm sure it's exciting to kind of get back into that mode.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely exciting, and like I said, completely unexpected. I didn't know what I was going to do next. I was open to potentially like another full-time job, or but then all of these opportunities just sort of popped up, and it felt like the universe was just sort of, pushing me in the direction of doing the fractional thing again for who knows how long. I mean, maybe it'll be for the rest of my career.
Yeah.
But at the very least, it's what I'm sort of choosing to do right now. So
Absolutely, that's amazing. So I'm
yeah.
I'd like maybe if there's some people in the audience who may not know about Erin Blasky or about what you do, maybe just to give everyone a little bit of background, maybe just
Yep.
going back in time, maybe just kind of the early stages of your career, maybe just walking people through that.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess we'll go back to 2004. That's when I started my first company. And when I started that business, I was, small town girl, didn't really know what I was doing, except that I just knew that I wanted to be a CEO. I had sort of had that dream of being a CEO for a very long time, since I was probably 6 years old. And what you can't see is on the top of this shelf right here, I have a Commodore 64. My dad had given me that computer, and it was just like the thing that sort of inspired me to want to not only get into tech, but also I used to play office with my sister, and I was always the leader of our company. But this trend sort of continued, and in 2004 I decided to start a virtual assistance business. There wasn't a whole lot of virtual assistants back in that time frame, and in a lot of ways I was sort of moving through these like uncharted waters, but launched the company and basically spent the next 14 years working with clients all around the world. I got fairly lucky. One of my first early clients was a company in the Bay Area, and I worked with him to build this incredible company. If you can believe it or not, we were actually selling an ebook when he first started the business. We were making about 5 figures a month on that business, just selling this PDF.
Wow.
Uh, and then we ended up growing that company quite a bit, turning it into more of a software play, and then eventually selling it to Ancestry.com for about $100 million. So learned a powerful lesson about equity, because I did not have any. So it's not like I walked away from that loaded. But it was just such a wild ride. And And those 14 years are really hard to sort of encapsulate into like one, succinct sentence, because I did so many things. I worked with startups and scale ups. I also worked with professional athletes and Hollywood actors and best-selling authors on their personal brands. And then I also worked with some bigger companies too, and supported Disney and a bunch of other companies as they were sort of early days into the influencer marketing movement. And yeah, I just had a wild ride. Honestly, I had so much fun. I would just, choose clients that sort of got me excited and got me out of bed in the morning. And I did that until about 2017 and started consulting locally with a startup accelerator here in Ottawa called Elspark, and fell in love with like the community there, the people, the work they were doing. So I did something I never thought I would do, which is I took a full-time job again, and joined their team, in 2017, and then worked there until 2020, where I joined Fellow as their first head of marketing hire. And Fellow is basically a meeting agenda software tool, based, and the company's based out of Ottawa as well. So joined them and had a wild first year. Grew all of their sort of marketing foundations, worked on the website, messaging, positioning, building the community, our content and SEO. But then at the beginning of this year, just sort of decided I was looking for a bit of a change. And like I said, decided to resign from my job with nothing really lined up, and popped it on LinkedIn. And I was just sort of like, let's see what happens. And then here we are.
Wow.
A couple weeks later.
That's wild. Wild ride.
Yeah, been a journey.
Yeah. So like, taking a step back, I guess, to your, the earlier days, I guess you mentioned kind of the early days of influencer marketing. I think social media was a big thing, I guess, that you're working on at the time. How
Yes, yeah.
was that kind of what you focused in on? Like, is that where you were seeing a lot of impact and a lot of results in those kind of areas, or?
Yeah, I did. It's interesting. I did a lot of different things. I think we all sort of did. Anyone who sort of, started companies in that time frame, there was just so much changing, and so many, new technologies and platforms coming out. And it was honestly one of the funnest times that I've had on the internet to date, because it was pre-social media. It was pre any of the sort of platforms we have now. Like, I remember when YouTube was really early, and um, I was not only servicing clients with their marketing, but I was also experimenting a lot with my own, and I was using all of these platforms to connect with people and just see what was possible on the platforms. I started getting business and speaking requests and things off of like social as it was like first coming out, and I started a YouTube channel, and that started getting traction, and I was just honestly having a ton of fun. And I think because I was such an experimenter plus an early adopter of a lot of those technologies, a lot of people in the market saw me doing these things, and they thought like, oh, well, I want to do that too, so can you do that for me? And honestly, like the early part of I would say my foray into marketing, the business, all the services I did, was really just that. It was me leading, just doing things out for myself, and then having other people say, well, I want to do that too. And then hiring me to do it. So honestly, I felt like it was the most fun. It was just such a time when we were just like experimenting, and I loved it all. But what I would say I gravitate toward the most, typically, I like anything to do with people. So if I look at and marketing, whether you're in B2B or B2C, or any other, business model, at the end of the day, it's human to human. And I think for me, I always gravitate towards any marketing, whether it's a strategy, a tactic, a platform, that really puts that at the forefront, and lets people just connect with each other and build community. And those things are always the most exciting for me. And I think it's why I've like gravitated often towards like building personal brands as well, because it's obviously a huge part of it is building relationships. But yeah, I just love any part of marketing where there's people involved. Doesn't matter what it looks like. I just want to be connected to humans and have that emotional, like genuine connection.
Absolutely. I really like what you said about experimenting and being an early adopter. Those points definitely resonate with me, because
Yeah.
two pieces. Like one, through experimentation, that's how you discover new things, right? And opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that, same thing with the early adopter. Like any new, actually, we were on Clubhouse last night, speaking
Yeah.
of it, and we talked about that early adopter. For example, when a new feature comes out, whether it was Instagram stories or some of the other things coming out, even like early adopter on whatever TikTok, any of these things, like it is an
Mm-hmm.
opportunity, and you may think it's too late, but it's not. Like it's only going to get
Yeah.
more competitive, right? So I think that's something where there's definitely a lot of opportunities for marketers, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, just the other day, I saw on marketing Twitter, they were talking about this new platform called Dispo, and of course, it's invite only. So anytime there's a platform that's invite only, I need in, now. Not just because of FOMO, but also because I'm just so curious about these different platforms. The one thing I find is different now, though, is that because of the variety of choice that we now have in a lot of these platforms, and also the saturation that exists on these tools, I do find there's a little less magic to the process. And I think it's because, like, a lot of these tools that come out are they're me too's in some ways. And even when they are sort of new, like a Clubhouse, the same things typically happen on them. Where you have those first folks that get on the platform, they create that genuine community. People are, I remember like early days in Clubhouse, even, there would be small rooms, everyone would get pulled up.
Yeah.
It was just like these real genuine connections. And now when I go in Clubhouse, like the same thing that happened on LinkedIn, the same thing that happened on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram is happening there too, where the rooms now are massive, and the people are definitely going for more ego and like the following, and people are pushing the boundaries with controversy, and they're it's very exclusionary in some ways, or clicky in others. And like that's where I always get a little lost on these platforms, because as soon as it starts to feel like people are coming onto the platform to just use it to like talk about how to become a millionaire,
Yeah.
I'm out,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm over it.
Yeah.
So it has lost a little bit of that magic, I think, because I think, yeah, exploitation of these platforms, people are just quicker at it now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know that's a cynical way to look at it, but it's hard.
Honestly, I feel the same way. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, I've only been on Clubhouse, for example, for, I don't know, maybe a month or two.
Mm-hmm.
And I've noticed this shift as well. Like now, I mean, at first I was only following people I knew. Then I started following like, you know, more influential people. And,
Yeah.
late, I was stepped into one the other day, and it was Grant Cardone. And,
Mm.
you've always known the
Yeah.
10X, and I actually just
Yeah.
started watching Undercover Billionaire. Have you seen that at all?
I know of it. I haven't
Yeah,
watched it though.
it's pretty
Yeah.
cool. Like basically they drop like these entrepreneurs into like a random city with like $100, and they have to build $1 million
Yeah.
business, right? So it's like, for me, that's like, it's really cool. And it's like right smack dab in the middle of COVID. Like it's pretty wild actually. But Grant
Mm-hmm.
Cardone, like for me, like it kind of like it really, you see behind the scenes a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it was really cool. And so I've been following him on Clubhouse, and there was actually a really funny Clubhouse the other day where he got on
Yeah.
with like Ty Lopez, but they're both going at it, and it's just kind of like everyone in the room's like, "Come on, like let's
Yeah.
let's try to add some value here."
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's cool. I think what's always interesting about those platforms, though, and this is like the part that I do love about them, is that you often see like the early adoption in folks that are otherwise, like, we'll call it unreachable or untouchable.
Yeah.
So, obviously there's been a lot of celebrities or like well-known, influential folks that get on the platform, and they're actually using it. They're getting in rooms and they're just like having normal conversations, and I do think that's part of the magic. And I think that that's like a special time to experience a platform, because unfortunately that usually doesn't last forever, or they get to a point where there's just like too much noise, for themselves to engage. So they might still show up, but they're not as, they don't have the ability to engage as deeply. So this is a magical time for sure. It's not all cynical.
Yeah.
I just lean that way a little bit sometimes.
Yeah. I think the thing that was most attractive to people was like just the audio portion. Like everyone's tired, they like don't want to be on camera. It's like, just give me something I can sit on my couch at 8 o'clock at night and just chat, and like no pressure of like,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So
No, for sure. Like it's so great. You know, it's perfect for COVID, to be honest.
yeah, exactly.
I mean, this is a rare day that I actually even put I mean, my hair is not quite done today, but it's like, you know, I have makeup on. It's a rare day.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really cool background you have there. It's really, I thought that is that like, that's like real background. That's not like an image, right?
Yeah, yeah, this is a
Okay,
real background.
it's
And
like
look, I'm like one of the only, I'm an elder millennial. I'm not a young
yeah.
millennial, but like I'm probably one of the only millennials that has a printer.
Old school.
So it's
Yeah,
real. And then this is my daughter and
nice.
her little stuffy, and she tells me all the time that this looks like a memorial to her.
Oh my
She
goodness.
walked in one day and she was like, "Mom, why does it look like I died?"
Oh my god.
That's what she said, and I was like,
That's wild.
"It's just a sweet little, like, you know, reminder for me." But no, it's very real. It's very real, and I have definitely have my books are color coded.
Nice.
Everyone asks me.
OCD, I'm the same way.
Yes,
Uh,
100%.
Nice, nice. So I'd love for maybe just, I mean, we have a lot of members on the team joining us right now. Maybe I'd love to see, like, is there any advice you might have for some of these? A lot of these team members, and we have some team members that have been with us, 5, 6 years now. We have some that are just getting started out in the past few months. We've gone from 24 team members to 35 since March.
Nice.
So it's
Yeah.
been a lot of growth. But I think, do you have any tips for some of these younger marketers as they kind of build their career, build their experience and expertise? What are some ways for them to kind of flourish?
Yeah, yeah. So this is often a go-to like piece of advice for me, but it's because I just really firmly believe in it. And that is that I think this stretches beyond just marketers, but I think this is especially applicable to marketers. And that is, you know, build your personal brand. It is so incredibly important for, especially for the future of your marketing career, to have a brand where other people, you know, look at you as someone that is like, you know, has expertise in this space. But not only that, that you're really sort of walking your talk. Because what I find with a lot of junior marketers is that they're a little bit less maybe, you know, confident, and confidence not the right word, because it's not like they lack confidence. It's just that they might feel like they're not at a place yet where they can share their expertise or you know, share their knowledge on a particular subject. But honestly, anything that you can start doing today will pay off in spades down the road. Like growing my own personal brand is the reason why, you know, I was able to quit my job just a couple weeks ago and land, you know, 5 clients immediately and be able to start, you know, a business like right out of thin air. Like this literally happened. And the biggest, you know, the biggest thing that I can attribute all of that to is definitely growing your brand. So, so a lot of people say like, what does that look like? And so I think from a marketer's perspective, if you're in the space, definitely, you know, use your own brand as a way to experiment with a lot of different things. So start a website for yourself. You know, I have one at erinblaskie.com. It's my, you know, my site where I can put like media mentions, I can write blogs, I can give people ideas about what I could speak about, you know, whatever I want to put on there. My portfolio is there. But basically, if you have your own website and you're active on social, you know, and you're really like just trying to experiment with a lot of these things for yourself, you're going to set the example in the market. You're going to give people a really good indicator, especially down the road, of who you are, what you're about, and what you're capable of. Because sometimes the challenges when we work inside of companies is that not everything we do inside of the company is something we can take with us or even talk about or show down the road, right? And so I think if you're doing it for yourself, those are all things that are very visible and you know, you have complete freedom to talk about. So I would say definitely work on that. And I think the other thing that's nice, not that I'm encouraging anyone on your team to leave, but I just want to, you know, make sure I preface that first. But what I would say is, you know, your personal brand is like the one thing you get to take with you, no matter where you go, no matter what you do. And my own personal brand has followed me, you know, from the early days of building my company to my full-time job at Spark to my full-time job at Fellow, and now back to this other side where I'm doing fractional CMO work. And it's the one thing that's persisted. You know, no one can take away you know, the network that I've built. They can't take away the content that I've created, and anything that I'm doing for myself, like whether that's setting up like, you know, an online course, or I write my own ebooks, or whatever the case might be. No one can take those things away. You know, those are all things that are now part of my DNA and my history and my legacy. So I think anyone can do that. It's very simple to do that. It just requires a little bit of practice and a little bit of faith and confidence to just dive in and do it. Um, and the last thing I'll say is, a lot of people say to me, like, what if I'm still so junior and I don't necessarily know, what to talk about or what to share about. And I think the one thing that you can do is just share about what you're learning along the way. Like, share your journey very openly. Maybe you're reading books or taking courses, or you're learning things in your job that you are safe to talk about. Share all of those things, because there are going to be other people that are going through a similar journey as you, and even if you're not that much further ahead than where they are, they're still going to learn something from your unique perspective and your take on things. So yeah, I would say that's probably been the biggest. It's had the biggest impact on my own personal career, and I would highly recommend it. And I teach at the university, and honestly, the piece that I teach at the university is social media and personal brand, because that is just, it is just such a powerful part of anyone's career, but especially so for marketing.
Absolutely. It's really, really great advice. And yeah, even myself, I have my own site, but again, it's, for me, it's obviously, I mean, I'm an owner of the company, so I'm trying to drive business back there, but it's important to share your little article about, like you mentioned, experiments, media, like PR placements, things of that sort. It is very important. And I've always tried to push that for team members. I think it's important. We've always said, especially, I mean, we were smaller, like, I didn't want SEO Plus being the Brock show. We want to highlight every team member here is unique and has their own skills and experiences. And that's why we try to, promote them to go do events and be a speaker and build your content, through our blog and things of that sort. Like, I think that's all, this is very important. And social media, sharing social media, like it's so important. Again, not only for yourself, and there's benefits to the company as well, but really, for yourself long term, right? You got to start somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm definitely passionate about that subject.
I think too, like, even the speaking thing, I think is a big thing. And I think almost there's more opportunities now than ever with everything digital and all these webinars and whatnot. I mean, I think back to when I first started my career, and I remember attending, and there was an event here in Ottawa. It was the Search Engine Marketing's professional organization, or SEMPO for short. And this lady, Christelle Larivière, and she came and she was doing a presentation on SEO. And she had basically like a SaaS software called G-Shift that was for, SEOs and digital marketers. And so basically it was in Ottawa. It was at a smaller venue. There was maybe 50 people there, but it was all like the marketing agencies, SEO agencies, and I'm like this young kid, and there's all these, like, they have like big groups of people, and I ended up talking to Krista at the end of the presentation, and I was kind of sharing my frustrations about, like, black hat SEO tactics and all these kinds of things. And we had a really good conversation. And she actually reached out to me a few months down the road, and she's like, listen, we're looking to run another event in Ottawa. Like, would you be willing to present? And I was like, first, I'm like, hey, this is a really cool opportunity. But I'm like, second of all, I barely know what I'm talking about. I'm only a year or two into this, and you want me to present to other marketers? Like, that was scary, but I think,
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, like once you got through it, it kind of gave you more confidence, gave you a little bit more of a name, gave you content you could use in different ways. So it's really just sometimes getting those opportunities as well.
Yeah, and just being willing to say yes to them, because you're going to have an enormous amount of imposter syndrome. You'll have, like, so many things going through your mind of, who am I to talk about this? What do I actually know about this? I still do that. And I've been, doing marketing for almost 20 years now. And I'm still, like, there's still times right before I go to talk, like last week, I had 7 speaking gigs last week, which was a mistake. Don't do that. It's a lot, because at least 3 of them required brand new decks at the same time. So it was awful. However, even before every one of those talks, even though I'm talking about things that I could do in my sleep, I still, right before, I think, who am I to talk about this? Every time. So it never goes away. But you just have to kind of just dive in and be willing to, give it a try.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really, really great advice. What would you say is the hardest part of your job or being a marketer?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. I think the hardest part is that marketing is such a big landscape. Like, when someone says, like, I do marketing, and it's actually the pinned tweet on my Twitter profile, because I just so strongly believe that this is like we've reached a point of insanity with like the word marketing, because like when you say I do marketing, there are just so many areas that impacts. Like social content, SEO, events, email marketing, growth marketing. Like there's so many things, and I think like the hardest part of the job is really um, it depends on like what you're doing, but like when I work with clients, the hardest part of the job is really kind of I would say maintaining expectations around what constitutes the areas of marketing that I'm strongest in, and then what we will likely need to outsource to others. For example, for myself, I am much more of an organic marketer, so anything that is like on the free side of life, like I am really great at it. I've always worked with companies that just didn't have much of a budget, so I've always had to get really creative with like how we're going to grow like that. As a result, I haven't spent as much time in Facebook ads and Google ads, and nor do I really have a lot of interest in it, to be completely honest. And so it's very easy though for a client to think like, oh, well, paid ads, of course, it's marketing, so you can do that. So just maintaining expectations, I think sometimes is important. And not only on the client side, but I think also just setting expectations for myself as well, in terms of, like what areas of marketing do I want to specialize in, and where are my, strong suits, and what do I don't necessarily want to be, flat, let alone T-shaped, but I don't want to be like a flat marketer where I just have like a little bit of knowledge across everything. So it's just, I think about kind of picking and choosing, just because the sea is so large. But
Yeah.
I mean, I'm probably speaking to the choir here, because I'm guessing you could probably relate to that as well.
100%. And I would say, hey, if you're going to specialize in anything, organic over paid, I think is better long term, and for the client as well.
Yes, every time honestly, we could have a whole chat about that.
Yeah,
Yeah, agree.
absolutely. And if you could give your younger self any advice, what would it be?
Um, I think to just like not feel like I needed to wait until I reached a certain point to do certain things. And what I mean by that is, I started my first company really young. Like I was 21, I think. And, that's like, it's a young age to start a company, because you're dealing with so many things. You're dealing with, yes, imposter syndrome, but you're also dealing with everyone else in the market around you. Your clients even are so much older and more experienced than you. Your peers that you're working with in many cases are older and more experienced than you. But I think I wish I would have just went back and told myself, or I wish I could go back and tell myself at that time, like, just ignore that, just go for it. Be like way braver than you're being. I was pretty fearless, but I think I could have been even more fearless, and I think I would have also been able to like, do things like hiring actual employees versus just relying on like subcontractors or freelancers. And I would have just, taken bigger risks and did things a little bit different. I don't have any regrets though. Like I think, I'm very grateful for all the lessons that I've learned along the way. But yeah, I think I would just tell myself to just go for it and ignore all those old cynics like me now.
Yeah.
Get on Clubhouse and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Versus like it's a place where it's, anyway. So I think, that would be the advice I'd give myself.
Nice. That's really good advice too. What are you into like books at all? Like, are you a big reader? Well, I see you have books behind you. So what are you reading right
Yeah,
now? What are you into?
books. So I actually pulled two books to share. So I really like this one, which is the High Growth Handbook. That's probably backwards on your screen. But anyway, so the High Growth Handbook is honestly such a great book. It's about scaling startups, but at the same time, it kind of breaks down like these interviews with folks into different sections. And I think it's just for anyone that's going to be working like in or with startups. Like this is a great book to read, because it gives you a little snippet of kind of like every facet of what it means to work in a startup. There's also a section in there on growth marketing as well.
Nice.
And then this is the other one I really love, and it's called Resonate. And it's about visual stories that transform audiences. So it's mostly like when you read the book, it's actually very pretty as well. But when you read the book, it's mostly about like how to create like really great PowerPoints, kind of. But like if you think about it just from the point of view of telling any story, this is an incredible book to read. And if you're going to do any amount of speaking at all, it's also a really great book to just understand how to frame all of your stories in a way that's much more captivating for people than just throwing together kind of a 20 slide deck that doesn't really have much of a journey or story through it. So those are two. And then the last book that I can't show you because I actually bought it on Kindle is The Courage to be Disliked. Incredible book. I read it over a weekend and went into work and quit my job right after reading it.
Wow.
So again, not that I'm encouraging anyone on your team to go do the same thing, but it's an incredible book that I feel is similar to a book like The Alchemist, where I read that book every year, and every year I get something different out of it. And I feel like The Courage to be Disliked would be the same. Just a very interesting book. So those would be the three that I would I always keep these two, by the way, Resonate and the High Growth Handbook, like really close to my desk, because I'm often grabbing them and reminding myself, just of some of the things that are in there.
Yeah, I would say, like, based on what you're saying around Resonate, I think storytelling is one of the best ways to get your message across, right? Especially when it's when it looks good visually and the story to support it.
Yes. Yeah, it's a great book. And it's very, like I said, it's very pretty. So I think if you like books that are very like visually pleasing as well, like, I don't know if anyone's like this, but like there's like, charts and like pretty highlights. Anyway.
Definitely pleasing.
It's a journey on its own, the book.
Nice.
Yeah.
What else? What is something that most people don't know about you?
Oh, I'm pretty open. So like literally I live out loud in so many ways. I think, let's see. I think what people don't know about me is that I'm actually, like, for as open as I am on the internet, I'm actually also a very private person, which feels like a little bit of a contradiction because I do share so much. Like I had a YouTube channel, where I documented my entire pregnancy with my daughter. I've had I've just very openly shared about most things, like my struggles with burnout and depression, my divorce. I even like annoyingly jumped onto the whole Gwyneth Paltrow like consciously uncoupling thing when I was getting a divorce and blogged about that, which I don't recommend in hindsight because it was like, anyway, that whole thing wasn't very popular. But yeah, so I've been very open, but I think like, I think I'm actually a much more private person today. And I'm much more careful about like the stories that I tell. And I really make sure that any of the stories that I'm telling are mine and mine alone and, don't involve others. So I think that, but I think a more fun one would be that I have a massive Lego collection, like
Nice.
massive. And I love doing Lego photography. So I actually started an Instagram account with my fiance, and it's called the Lego Diaries. And means it's not a secret anymore. But we do Lego photography on that, and it's not something we talk about very very often.
That's awesome. Yeah. Have you been to Legoland or anything like that? I think there's one in like London.
No, I haven't. No, we just have a lot of Lego. Like I have almost every one of like the creator sets, and then the really pretty like building ones that all kind of connect. And we had at one point in time, before I reclaimed this room as my office, this actually was a Lego room. Yeah. And we had, tables set up, and we had LED lights like running through a lot of our village, and it was insane, to be honest. And now they're just all in the basement. And I think at some point soon, I think one whole wall in our basement is just going to be Lego.
Hey, as long as you can keep it in one spot. I mean, I have 2 young kids, so I have Lego everywhere in my house, like every room, under everything.
Yeah,
never ends.
Yeah. And my daughter doesn't even really love playing with it anymore. like she's 10, so she still does like, she likes playing with it somewhat.
Yeah.
But I play with it more than she does.
Yeah. Nice. That's cool.
Which is great.
Um, so actually, the other day, I think Rory sent me the link to this. I think on Twitter you were chatting about there's discussion around the Airbnb cutting off all paid ads and going organic. I'd love to hear, maybe just tell the team a little bit about that conversation, some takeaways from that.
Yeah. So I had seen someone else, Kieran, I think his name's Kieran, from HubSpot. He tweeted out this, quote where it said that Airbnb turned off, I think the majority of their paid ads and really experienced no dip in their, in any of their sort of, marketing stats as a result of that. And I just thought it was really fascinating because anywhere that I've ever worked, I've put a really heavy emphasis on, as I was saying before, like a lot of, content and SEO and, building the community and really, really paying attention to like distribution engines around those content pieces that we were creating. And then also like diversifying our channels, like just a lot of different things that allowed us to grow very quickly, but using organic methods. And not everything obviously on organic is quick, but some things can be. If you are creating content and you have a strong distribution engine, you can actually produce results pretty quickly on that. And so even at Fellow, that was a really big piece of our strategy was, we had a limited marketing budget at the time, and we couldn't just throw all of that at paid ads and hope for the best, or think that was going to be sustainable over the long term. So instead, what we did is we really doubled down on content. So we had our blog, a podcast. What else? We had ebooks. And then we also did things on social, like, we did a Twitter chat. We started a YouTube channel. And really just thought about like, how can we, really kind of throw a wider net out, but also how can we create content that our demographic is looking for today, so that we can, instantly attract them and potentially convert them to the platform. And as a result, we actually grew, user registration by about 400% in about 10 months.
Wow.
Our web traffic grew an enormous amount in that same time period, and it was mostly organic. Like we did very little paid ads, which was actually really great to see, because it meant that we didn't need to rely on it. Whereas I worked in other companies where they, if you look at their sort of like acquisition split in Google, let's say, some of these companies, the part of the pie that's the largest is their paid ad spend, which means that if tomorrow they had to turn that off, that's going to have an instant impact on signups or purchases or whatever they're doing. So for me, I've always been bullish on like keeping the largest part of the pie, being either direct or, referral or organic, and just really kind of doubling down on that. So anything that validates that thought in the market, and Airbnb did, I'm always like, yes. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, I think that's important. I mean, I'm always organic first, SEO, all those kinds of things, and I think I've seen businesses that have relied heavily on paid acquisition. Two examples that are coming to my mind are, I'm not going to say the name of the companies, but they were primarily focused on Facebook lead generation for sales through e-commerce. And a couple of years ago, when Facebook made all those changes to their ad platform, businesses got crushed because they were so reliant on it, right? And it was great while it lasted, but it's not going to last forever.
No, and with all the changes, and I'll be completely honest, I need to spend the time deeply understanding. You might already deeply understand it, but I need to spend the time deeply understanding the changes that are about to happen to things like cookies and tracking and all the other things that are about to change, because I admittedly haven't spent enough time kind of digging into that. But those changes, from what I understand, are likely to have a pretty large, significant impact on more on the paid ad side. And I just look at a lot of businesses and I think to myself, if you're reliant solely on these platforms to deliver, all of your audience and all of your potential customers, it's sort of like, you're taking a huge risk that those platforms are going to A, never change,
Mm-hmm.
or B, be there and perform, for you over the long term. And I was watching this video with Chamath, like one a VC in the Valley, and he was saying that 43 cents of every VC dollar goes back to Facebook and Google, which
Wow.
I was just like completely blown away by, because that is such a huge number, which means that, like, if you think about that from the broader perspective of, startup and the ecosystem, we have all these companies who are raising VC dollars to literally just hand almost half of every dollar over to these massive corporations.
Wow.
Um, and who knows, like, how, qualified or how quality those leads that they're getting through those paid ads are. Whereas, like, if you're doing it through like content and community, and you're building trust with these individuals and there's relationships there, I would argue that those leads are probably, in most cases, going to be much higher quality.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think, yeah, I mean, those are really good points. I think one dangerous thing with what they've said, like Airbnb, is kind of, they said like, oh, we turned off our marketing. I think maybe I don't know if
Right.
they kind of generalize it, which I think could,
Yeah.
for people who don't understand, could send the wrong message. Basically saying you don't need
Yeah.
marketing
Yeah.
to have, and they own a category essentially. They have a strong brand,
Yeah.
so not everyone's going to be able to get away with that either, right?
No, gosh, no. And like the thing that they already have in place is they have an incredible library already of content out in the wild, right? They have affiliate programs and like, or referral programs. They have all of these other things that are absolutely still marketing,
Yeah.
they're still active on social. So I agree with you. I think the way that they worded it in terms of like, oh, we turned off our marketing, is not entirely true. It's just, I think that they pressed the brakes a little on their paid acquisition, which I think is, yeah, everything else from what I can see anyway, obviously from an outsider's perspective. I mean, they still have, this incredible body of work and an engine that's going to run whether they're pouring, paid into it or not.
For sure.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely misleading.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's your favorite channel right now? Like, I see you on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube. Like, what's your favorite right now?
Yeah, I would say Twitter for sure. Like Twitter has always been my favorite. I stay bullish on Twitter even when everyone was like kind of like moved off temporarily off
Yeah.
of Twitter, and everyone went to Instagram for a bit. And then Instagram did all those UI changes, and honestly, that's just a cesspool now. Like I don't even understand. The performance there is garbage.
Yeah.
But I've always been super bullish on Twitter, and I always will be. But I also need to say that I am in love with TikTok right now.
Yeah.
Um, and the reason I'm in love with it is actually because I think that they are the first social platform to actually figure out an algorithm that works. Like the algorithm on TikTok, when you think about it, is so smart and so intelligent, and it delivers you the exact content that you're going to like as a person. It's
Mm-hmm.
completely individualized. But then the other thing I love about it is that the tool just naturally surfaces to you new people. Whereas if you think about the way that like Twitter, or Instagram works, I have to be the one to go out and seek these
Yeah.
people, and I have to follow them, and I have to do the work of like seeing if they're the right fit and if they're posting content I'm going to like. And
Mm-hmm.
whereas on TikTok, I don't have to do any of that work. I open the platform, it's feeding me videos, and I get to choose, like, do I like this? Do I want to follow this
Yeah.
person? Or I can just keep swiping,
Yeah.
And anyway, so I'm fascinated with it, from just an overall algorithm and user perspective. I think they've nailed it.
Yeah, absolutely. We started our TikTok channel in December for SEO Plus.
Yep.
We had obviously a lot of clients asking us about it. Like, well, we need to try this out
Yep.
for ourselves. And at
Hmm.
first, I was like, kind of, what route do we want to go? I had, my first idea was like, well, we have a lot of knowledge. Let's share that in tidbits, right?
Yep.
And the idea was, originally I was thinking, you see a lot of those people, they have like screenshots and they just, they show you going through a software or program or whatever. We ended up going
Yeah.
kind of a different route, working with a a local someone who focused on TikTok. He's got an influencer, 30,000 followers and stuff like that. And
Mm-hmm.
he went more like a visual route. We kind of stand, talk, and like give tips. And it's been
Yeah.
interesting. Like I agree, the algorithm is very interesting. And then like kind of the takeaways that I have from it is I think there's two pieces that are really going to help growth as you're creating.
Mm-hmm.
One is obviously engagement. So how long are people watching the
Yeah.
video, right? That's a really big metric is yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like how long they've watched time. And the second is shares. Likes is
Yes.
one, but I really do. I think it's watch time and shares. So we found like the
Mm-hmm.
more people that are actually sharing the video, like with their friends,
Yeah.
obviously that's going to create more views. But I think that is a metric they're strongly looking at, and that's where we've seen
Mm-hmm.
like we have some videos they get 200 views. Some that we have a few
Yeah.
they got 5 or 6,000, but those are the kind of the things that I saw that were consistent.
Yeah, yeah, same. I've got a couple TikTok accounts. I have one for we do a lot of outdoor adventuring, so we have one called Trails Next Door, and I do like a
Nice.
lot of like outdoor, hiking, kayaking kind of videos there. And then I have my personal one, which I just started doing like more marketing style videos
Nice.
on there. But funny enough, so I know this is going to seem so random, but my ex-husband is like such a personality. Like he's just like such a character. He's a lumberjack. So he's very opinionated and outspoken. And anyway, so I told him a couple weeks ago, I was like, you need to get on TikTok.
Yeah.
And I'm like, specifically lumberjack talk. Like I'm like, this is a thing. You need to start doing these videos. And sure enough, the man gets on TikTok and is doing like talking head style videos about like, everything from like being a single parent to dating to, and then of course these lumberjack videos where he's chopping wood, and his account is blowing up. Like
Really,
it's
eh?
just bananas. And it's funny because I knew it would happen. And he's the type that like really enjoys enjoys creating kind of that micro content.
Yeah.
So it's just such a lovely platform.
Yeah.
I think COVID was like the perfect time for it to blow up because I think people just want to be entertained and they want, fun, lighthearted content. And not that the platform is all that, but like if that's what you engage with, that's you're going to get.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, Brock, if there's like specific things that you get because I am on Moose Talk, so I get a lot of moose
Oh
videos.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I get weird like I get a lot of like partying videos and like funny like scenes and like I don't know, just like weird like I don't know how. But I
I
really
love
enjoy
it.
it. Yeah, it's good. It's a good channel for sure.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
awesome. So let's I think we're at 7. Oh, we're at 12:45. So let's open up to questions. I see there's like a lot of questions here. So I'll kind of if you're
Sure.
open to it, I'll kind of read them out to you and then
Yeah.
let you go from there. So here's one from Austin. So question for later. You mentioned you work with some professional athletes. Are you able to share who some of those athletes were?
Yeah, yeah. So back in the day, I worked with Chad Durbin, who was a pitcher for the Boston Red Sox, a backup pitcher, not like a main pitcher, but still a fairly, I'm not going to minimize his professional athlete career. So I actually worked with him. And worked with him on his personal brand, but also he was, in addition to like obviously being a baseball player, he was also working on a tech company specifically for younger athletes. And so I was kind of helping him in the early days of that product and just walking him through like how he could build a bit of a community around it and leverage certain channels. So yeah, that would be one that, if you're into baseball, you might recognize his name.
Nice. Kara,
Yeah.
young marketers often don't have a lot of money when they're first starting out. What is the number one thing you would recommend they invest their money in when it comes to personal brand?
Ooh, that's a good question. So, like a lot of the stuff that you can do from a personal brand perspective is actually free or cheap, like cheap or free. And so, when you think about social and all of those platforms, none of that, costs money. So creating content, you can definitely do. I would say like I use a tool called Buffer as well, and I like using Buffer because what I like to do is I like to pre-schedule a lot of my content, not because I just want to like post and forget, but because I don't know if anyone else is like this, but I get a bunch of tweet ideas, or like, I'll be in a creative space, so I have all these things kind of popping into my brain, and rather than tweet storm and put them all out at once, I want to spread them out. So I use like a tool called Buffer, and I just use their free account. So it can be really valuable to sort of pre-schedule your content. And then it gives you the time when you are in this sort of in the day today, you can actually then show up and engage with the posts versus having to feel like you're, creating the content on the fly. So I think like, Buffer would be like a pretty free tool. I think where you could invest some of your money would definitely be into a personal website. So what I did for my own site to keep it really cost effective is I just went to Squarespace, which I know there's going to be a whole bunch of people out there that are like, maybe that's not the best approach, or, like go with a custom WordPress site or whatever the case might be. But honestly, if you're just trying to get something up and you want it to be like quick and easy, for me, that was Squarespace. So my erinblaskie.com website is set up on there. I used to be like 100% just WordPress, but for ease and not having to worry about like keeping up with security and everything else, I went there, and that cost me about like I think $200 a year. I think you can spread that out over monthly as well. But something like that is a decent place to invest your money, because especially if you start blogging, like again, content and SEO compounds over time. So I think that's a good place to spend some coin. And then I think like anything you can do that improves the quality of your content, if you decide to go down the path of like video or audio. So, I bought a really cheap ring light off Amazon. It helps on days like today when I'm like, want a little bit of light to the side of my face. So I think, if you just put maybe a bit of money there. And then I guess the other thing I would say, you don't have to spend money on this, but like I would say, invest maybe some time is just on some good photos for social. So, get a nice like looking headshot. Thankfully, with our iPhones today, or whatever phone you have, the cameras are incredible. So, you can, I do most of, I shouldn't say that. My fiance is a photographer, so he does most of my photos.
Nice.
But if I need one in a pinch, I just snap it with portrait mode on my iPhone as well. But yeah, and then I would say the last thing, it's not necessarily related to personal brand, but just more marketing, is invest in some of the certifications, that exist around like, for HubSpot or Facebook ads or Google. Many of them are free, so you don't actually have to pay anything to do those. Just invest the time, because it'll give you a little bit more confidence if you don't already have it, and also give you something that you can put on your LinkedIn, to show that you're developing your skills.
Great advice.
That's what I would say.
All right. Austin, I noticed that your YouTube channel is killing it. Do you have any tips on growing a YouTube channel?
Oh, yeah. So my YouTube channel, so I don't know which one you're talking about. I have multiple. But I have my Erin Blaskie one, and which is more like marketing content. And then I have one that's like a parenting YouTube channel, which is like a bit of like a mix of vlogs and then my daughter. That one has actually the most video views and subscribers. So there's like 10,000 on that one, I think, and then 7 million video views. And then I have a gaming channel as well, because I play video games. So I have 3. It's interesting, like YouTube actually was easier to grow back in the day. So when I started my YouTube channels 11 years ago, which, believe it or not, that's when I had my first YouTube channel, it was actually very easy to grow it, because the noise on YouTube wasn't as, high, and, the algorithms were different, and, the chances of you getting on like the front page were actually like reasonable, and it was possible back then. So it was a lot easier back in the day. What I would say today, though, is really leveraging like any other network that you might have. For me, that's like sharing the videos on Twitter, or sharing a preview on LinkedIn and passing people back to the YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
I include it in my newsletter, to make sure that like those folks are seeing it. And then another thing you could do that I've heard works for some folks, is some people embed their YouTube videos as responses on Quora to questions,
Cool.
As well as on sometimes in Reddit, but that's like a tricky one because people in Reddit hate self-promotion.
Yeah.
So that one you have to be careful about. But if it was relevant and maybe in the right subreddit, that could work.
Yeah.
But I think it's just like building up your overall community around and your overall network, and then providing them content on the channel that's just really relevant. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do inside the site as well. There's like the ability to tag and hashtag and even search optimize the videos. But from my experience, like doing the community build and the network build has been more powerful.
Nice. And what's the gaming channel?
So my gaming handle on most platforms is Stiletto Soldier.
Okay.
And my YouTube channel is the same.
What do you play though?
So on that channel, I was doing a lot of sim builds, like Sims 4 houses, because I like to build like these elaborate houses that look real. I like to do that. But then I was also playing Fortnite, and a lot of the videos are World of Warcraft, some Call of Duty. Nice. Yeah, but I play everything. I play Destiny. I play, I just finished Cyberpunk over the holidays.
Yeah.
And I replayed from like re-rolled a new character right till the end. I replayed Skyrim over the holidays as well.
Yeah, we got a game or two. Austin has his own channel. Austin loves you, and he does like
Oh, cool.
We do a lot of NHL, but Call of Duty and stuff like that as well. So that's funny.
That's amazing. Yeah, my channel's I've been a little busy, so I haven't updated in a while, but yeah, it's still there.
Nice.
It's still there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hardy, do you believe in work-life balance, and how do you unplug yourself from work?
I didn't used to. Not that I didn't believe in it, I just didn't practice it. But I found like since having my daughter, and she's 10, so this has been a decade-long experience now. But since having my daughter, it's almost forced a little bit of that, into my life. Not for like both forced it because like you have no choice, but also I wanted to create moments for her every single day where she had like my undivided attention, and she wasn't like looking at me staring at my phone or looking at me staring at my laptop. And so I think that made a really big difference. But I find I'm very cyclical, so I try not to think about it too much in terms of like putting a lot of pressure on myself to get it right every day. But instead, like I do notice natural cycles in myself. Over the winter, for example, I'm going to work a lot more. I'm going to be a little bit more I hibernate. I play more video games. I do those things because then when the nice weather comes, and I am free to get outside because I hate the winter. But as soon as I'm free to get outside, my work-life balance goes way more life and way less work. So for me, it's like, it's very cyclical, and I try not to overanalyze it as much. I think because of my experience in the past with like burnout, I am maybe a little more aware than the average person in terms of like when I'm reaching that point of burnout. Just because I'm so hypersensitive to it now, that the minute I do start to feel a little off, or I notice that I need the break, I work it in. Like I take it and I, unapologetically do that. So I don't think work-life balance is a thing, but I think work-life integration is a thing. And I think COVID accelerated that for all of us because we've had no choice but to integrate our works and lives all in one.
Yeah, really great advice. Jess, sounds like you're pretty busy. Do you have any time management or organization tips?
Yeah, so definitely busy. I think the things that help me the most are definitely time blocking. So I do time block my calendar as much as possible. So for example, when I work with clients, I typically know the time investment I need to make in their businesses every week. And so the first thing that I do before I book any other meetings is I go ahead and I set those kinds of blocks in my calendar so that I have that mapped out. And then any free time around those things, I'll block out, time to do other activities. So for example, I might keep a block to do business admin, and then I might keep a block to do personal admin. And then maybe I keep another block where I do more like community open office hours, and then another one where I'm doing all of my like new business calls. So I think the time blocking has helped a lot. I also batch my work, always related to the time blocking. So if a client pings me, for example, in the morning and they're like, hey, do you have a few minutes to chat on Slack or on video or whatever? More often than not, I say no. And I usually let them know when I'm going to be working on their work and defer them to that time. Because I think from a time management perspective, like a big piece of the puzzle is really respecting your own time and putting up boundaries, like when it makes sense to do so. And I read something recently on Twitter because I actually asked this question. And if you go back in my tweets, there's a fantastic thread about both scheduling meetings, but then I also have a time blocking question that I asked just to, spark conversation. And there are so many great tips in that thread. So definitely recommend reading that. But what was I going to say now? I got off on a the thing that I read, which is that you teach people how to treat you, is essentially kind of how it went. So I think that's really important, is just maintaining and managing those boundaries.
Absolutely. Great. Well, I think we're up for time here. There's a couple other questions, so I encourage anybody to kind of reach out directly to Erin, maybe Twitter or LinkedIn, any of these channels, and I'm sure connect from there.
I'm going to, what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to copy and paste these questions out. I think I can get them all, but anyway, I'll copy paste these out, and anything that I didn't answer live, I will answer through Twitter.
Nice. That's amazing. Thank you so much. Erin, I want to say thank you. It was really great to chat with you. I don't think we've ever actually connected and chatted, so this is really, really great. And hopefully we'll have another opportunity to do it again soon.
Yeah, no, this has been awesome, and thank you. Thanks for all the questions. It's been so engaging. I haven't been able to watch the whole chat, but I have seen some of it. I'll definitely be going through to look at it after we hang up. So
absolutely. Thanks so much again, Erin. Take care.
Okay. Yep. Bye.
Bye.